Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to this video. If you're here right now, then you're looking to get closer to Allah through your fitness journey and through your entire lifestyle and journey in life as a whole. And the reason why I'm having this discussion with you today is obviously I'm the Muslim fitness coach. And in addition to that, I had a really good reminder from a friend of mine yesterday who was talking about how if something doesn't bring you closer to Allah, there's no barakah in it. And so I started to think the same thing about our fitness journeys. And I thought about how if we can bring barakah into our fitness journeys and make this journey a journey of making ourselves better in every single way, which is what we always do, but for the sake of Allah, for the sake of becoming closer with Allah, then how much more barakah we have in our success across all areas of life. And I encourage you to apply everything you're going to learn about fitness today in every other area. Let your career bring you closer to Allah. Let your partner, your spouse bring you closer to Allah. Let your kids, your family bring you closer to Allah. And of course, anything in your life that does not bring you closer to Allah that you can't really shift, such as maybe toxic friends or whoever it may be, cut those things out, because again, there's no barakah in doing something that takes you further from Allah, and there's nothing but misery when you leave that barakah of Allah and you don't have these things in your life. So we're going to dive into a slideshow with a lot of really good fitness motivation. Again, this is a super important and powerful reminder for us all, and having that intention, like to do everything for the sake of getting closer with Allah, is something that I believe is beneficial to renew every single day. And at least that's what I've noticed in my life, is as long as I renew that intention every single day, it keeps me, alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah, on Sirat al-Mustaqim, as opposed to being left to the devices of my own ego, of the influence of shaitan, and all the other things that will pull me off that path, off that focus, and put me into, the path of those who Allah is displeased with. And thus, that's where all the pain, suffering, misery, and failures come, versus the path of Allah. Sirat al-Mustaqim is the path of success, blessings, positivity. And I don't have the exact hadith for this, but actually, when you do, I was listening to this in a podcast from a sheikh today about how when you do good deeds for the purpose of Allah, your blessings are guaranteed. Okay, but when you state that you're a believer, you're also going to be tested. So again, these are a lot of different things you need to keep in mind, but as long as we can optimize our positive Islamic psychology, we can absolutely do extremely well in this. So anyways, I could talk about this all day, but let's actually dive into the slideshow that I have carefully prepared for you today. We're going to dive into why your fitness journey must bring you closer to Allah, or there's no barakah in it, but if you make everything you do for the purpose of bringing you closer to Allah, then there's barakah in everything you do. So inside of this call or video today, we're going to talk about the benefits on your deen, your family, and your livelihood, aka your work, your business, your financial situation, by being healthy and fit. And then we're going to talk about some hadith on health and healthy eating. So the first hadith I want to open this with is a wisdom category of hadith, which is to take advantage of your 5 blessings before deprived. So Ibn Abbas reported, the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings be upon him, take advantage of 5 before 5. Your youth before your old age, your health before your illness, your riches before your poverty, your free time before your work, and your life before your death. So I want to dive into all of these because this is really beautiful, because even if you're like 48 right now, which ironically I got a lot of clients who are exactly 48 years old, which is funny because I think they're coming up on 50, which is why they want to make that change, which is a common principle I hear amongst a lot of them. Again, these guys are dads, business owners, professionals, doctors, like high-level guys, but they want to get that final piece of their life dialed in, which is their health. That's beautiful. And, there's definitely worldly motivations behind that. But of course, if we can shift that motivation to not just be that worldly motivation, but to also be for the sake of Allah, then it becomes even more powerful. And the one thing I want to say too is I was having this conversation with one of the coaches on my team, Brother Muhammad, Coach Muhammad, absolutely amazing guy. May Allah bless him. He's absolutely amazing. And he brings me closer to Allah, which is one of the main reasons I love working with him, just like the rest of my team. And so the thing that I want to say about Brother Muhammad specifically is we were having that conversation, and I was talking about intentions. We were having a similar conversation about everything you do needs to bring you closer to Allah, or there's no barakah in it. And what he told me, I'm just checking my audio real quick, we're good. What he told me is that, if the action is good, even if the intention could still use a little bit of work, improvements, upgrades, you should still do the action because it's good. So even if you don't get to this perfect place where you're perfectly getting on top of your fitness for the sake of Allah, you should still do it because the action is still good. And we're going to go through the benefits it has today as well. But if you can make it about Allah, then it becomes even better. Same with your work. Don't just not show up to work because you're not perfectly doing it for the perfect intentions, because the action is still good, provided that what you're doing for work is halal and all those other things, right? And if you aren't doing halal things for work right now, leave those things in a lower place with something better. Like let's say you're using riba, right? And you're justifying to yourself, oh, well, I'm using this because blah, blah, blah. Well, there's a halal way to do this. And obviously this is outside my area of expertise. Like, I have a couple clients who are in real estate who can give you the actual specifics on this. But basically it has something to do with paying the extra amount of how much they would charge you in infringers kind of on the front end. Again, I'm not an expert on this, but there's a way to borrow money in a halal way that doesn't require you to use riba. And so it's important, super important to use that, especially because inshallah I'm planning on getting into real estate, and so ultimately I need to make sure I'm doing it the halal way, inshallah. But anyways, not to go on too much of a tangent, but these things are applicable to all of us. So let me just make sure that we actually get the slideshow here. There we go. Okay, cool. Hopefully you can see my slides and we're good to go. All right, so anyways, so take advantage of your youth before your old age. Even if you're 48, well, you know what? You're not 58, so take charge of it now. Okay, what if you're 72? Well, at least you're not 82, so take charge of it now. Let's say you're 32 and you're making excuses that, oh, when my life's more established, when I'm in my 40s, because I've already like gotten to the level I want to be in my career, then I'll make a change. No, don't procrastinate. That's the worst thing you can do. And, you know, take advantage of your free time before your work, per what our Prophet ﷺ said, what Rasulullah ﷺ said. You know, take advantage of your free time before your work. Don't be a procrastinator, right? That's an extrapolation and interpretation that I have of this particular line, and how it is meaningful and impactful and helpful for me in my pursuit of becoming closer with Allah by following the principles of our Quran and Hadith, right? And then, you know, so youth before old age, so no matter how old you are, whether you're 18, 28, 38, 48, 58, whatever, you're younger than you're going to be tomorrow, so take advantage of that now. Let's say that you already have illness. Maybe you already have diabetes. Well, you know, before it gets worse, let's make a change. And if you're pre-diabetic or you have it in your family, take care of that before you end up eating yourself into a sickness. And there are Quran verses too, and I believe I may have put it a little bit later in this that pertain to this as well. But either way, you know, take advantage of your health before your illness. You know, if you're healthy right now, let's keep it that way. And if you have a risk of having health problems, or you already have health problems, then let's fix it as soon as possible. Because the last thing you want to do is have knee issues and not be able to pray without a chair when you're older. The last thing you want to do is to have, you know, diabetes to where you can't fast when you're older, all that stuff, right? And then your riches before your poverty. So same thing, you know, you may go through some tough times in your business. So when you have abundance of money, use it for righteous sake. And, you know, there are 3 types of sadaqah that are considered the best. One is for the poor. One is for, you know, I actually just took a note on this, so I'll pull it up. But the best sadaqah is actually for your family. So don't be stingy with your family. There's a quote from the same lecture I was listening to today where the Sheikh was saying that Iman and stinginess do not meet in the same heart. So I know that a lot of us, especially like if you come from Arab culture or Pakistani culture, there's a stereotype about being stingy. And Allah does not like those who waste money, but there's a difference between being abundant and being wasteful. If you're wasting your money, that's also, you know, frowned upon. But if you, if I'm just pulling up my notes here, if you, but if you're stingy with your family and you don't get them the basic things that they need that are your obligations, then that's a huge problem. Like he was using an example of like a guy who measures the olive oil before he leaves the house, and if it's decreased, then he gets angry, right? That's terrible. That's stinginess. Let your family use the olive oil, right? But at the same time, the obligation on the wife is to not, you know, ask for something that is beyond what the husband can afford. Like, oh, get me a 4,000 square foot house because that's what this other person has. No, you know, if he can only afford 2,000, at least he's providing that 2,000, and, you know, help him and support him and help him grow his business so he can do more, right? He didn't say that last part, but I'm just adding that last part from my perspective. But let's see, where was it? Oh yeah, so spending on family is the best of the 3. There's money spent for the sake of Allah, money spent for the poor, and money spent on your family. The best of those 3 is the money that's spent on your family. It's pretty amazing. I know it's supposed to be about fitness, but I just heard this lecture today and I'm like super excited on it. I want to share it with you because I listened to this lecture as a means of bringing me closer to Allah. And may Allah bless the Sheikh. May Allah bless the one who shared this, you know, lecture with me and everything. And so, you know, there's a lot of blessings all around, right? And, you know, in Islam, we want to keep things private, but the one who shared, you know, the lecture with me is my fiance. So may Allah bless her. I love you so much. Anyways, all right. Since I hope you're watching this. Anyways, all right, let's dive back into this. And kindness, publicly declaring your affection, is also a sunnah. So, you know, that kind of helped me where I had this whole fear where it's like, oh, I shouldn't mention anything because evil eye, evil eye, evil eye. But some people get paranoid. And the evil eye is real, but it's not like some supernatural thing where if you mention that you're engaged, people are going to like freak out. No, you know, publicly declare your love. And, you know, if you're watching this right now, which I know you are because you watch all my stuff, I love you like to death beyond words can even describe. And so anyways, public displays of affection, that's something that the Prophet ﷺ did when they asked him, you know, about who's the one who he loves. Anyways, all right, so just kind of going through this hadith, your free time before your work, right? We talked about that. Don't procrastinate. Your life before your death. But again, the big one, health before your illness. That's the big thing I want to inspire you with today for obviously this whole principle of Islamic motivation to get fit. And if you think about it, just from a worldly perspective, I mean, there's benefits on your deen, benefits on your family, and benefits on your livelihood about being healthy and fit. So honor the body that Allah has given you, right? There's the hadith that the strong believer is better than the weak believer, but there's good in both of them. And do not have regrets, but instead just say it's the qadr of Allah. That's the full hadith, right? And I can pull up the quote where you can Google search, you know, hadith on strong believer versus weak believer. Now the context of this hadith is actually just, you know, strong in your iman and your belief versus weak in your iman and your belief. But, you know, physical strength is a very important thing too. So take care of that physical strength. And especially like if you're getting older, like if you're a man, let's say above the age of 35, then you're losing muscle every single year, 1 to 2%, which is slowing your metabolism down and causing you to gain fat, making you at risk of all the things that higher body fat makes you at risk of, like cholesterol, heart disease, diabetes, all that stuff. So we definitely need to be careful, right? And then likewise, your testosterone levels would be lowering, and you also need to make sure that you strength train and lift heavy weights when you get older, or at least lift some kind of weights when you get older, so that you take care of your body and you take care of your metabolism, you take care of your health, and then getting in more protein because your body becomes less efficient at absorbing protein as you get older. Now, if you're a woman, I mean, obviously the older you get, the more important it is to take care of your health, strength training, everything, but especially if you're a woman coming up on your 50s or in your 50s, got to be careful, because if you're not taking care of strength training, you lose bone mineral density, and that's super important. But even if you're a woman who's like 32, you should still take care of your health, because, don't waste, like we said before, don't waste your youth before old age, don't waste your health before your illness, don't waste your life before your death, right? Take care of the gift, the riches that you've been given in your youth right now, because otherwise you're going to have problems. Take care of the free time you have now, because the more kids you have, the more you progress in your career, the more busy you get. There's never a point where you're not busy. You're always going to be busy. So figure out and be a master of time, which is something we teach as well inside of, our content as well as our programs. So super, super important. But anyways, so honor the body Allah's given you, right? Our body is an amana from Allah. It's a trust, so take care of it. The other thing too is understand that you're gonna have more focus, more energy, and you're gonna be in a more proactive mindset when you are the person who works out consistently and takes care of your health. Even if it's short workouts, you're still taking care of yourself, and you're gonna bring that focus, energy, proactivity into your prayers. You're gonna pray earlier, and you're gonna pray better. You're gonna be more focused, and you're gonna get more out of them. Same with your family. You're gonna be more present, more positive, all the things that you need to be your best. And treat your family better than even people outside your family, because that is the sunnah of our Prophet ﷺ. As they asked his wife, how does he act at home versus out in public? Because he's all good in public, but how is he in his home? And she said, even better than out and about. So that's something really important that I'm working on right now as well, alhamdulillah. And then of course in your work, right? It helps you bring that focus, energy, and productivity to your work. So you're gonna make more money too, and then you can use that money to obviously do more good deeds, to establish more leverage inside of your business, which is going to help you to then have more time for family, for ibadah, for everything, and become closer with Allah. And of course, in your work, you want to be able to, really honor Allah. And the best way to become close with Allah is just making sure that, you are kind of filling your cup and not wasting time, not being proactive, and not having energy and all that stuff, and being inefficient, and then praying your prayers late, rushing them, all that stuff, because you got so much work, right? So super, super important that we're just, becoming closer to Allah through all these things by taking care of our health. Beyond, in addition to honoring the body that he has given you, but also for the worldly benefits that allow you to do more positive things. Because again, the more money you make, the better you can do. Now, money is also a test, right? Because are you going to let it make you arrogant and stingy and all that stuff? No, right? Give dua of gratitude with the same intensity as the dua you made when you were broke, right? Now, or if you were broke, right? No need for a chair when you're praying when you're older. So that's huge. We see people who are younger and younger using a chair when they're praying when they're older, because nobody takes care of their health. We see guys, and it's very classic, right? There's a couple brothers, and mashallah, may Allah bless them, for coming into the masjid for Fajr every single day. And that's something that I'm getting back into the routine of, alhamdulillah, and may Allah make it easy for all of us to do so and be better. But sometimes you see like this certain archetype of individual, and he spends like 16 hours a day in a taxi, or on, doing a manual labor job, blue collar type stuff, or even the white collar guy, the doctor who's on 30-hour on calls into his 50s. Like, it's terrible. And these guys, their knees get so destroyed, and they don't take care of their health. And then before they know it, they're completely destroyed, right? You take care of all these things, you become a master of time, you have more discipline, right? You're better able to handle fasting and extra fast. Super, super important. If you aren't doing these things, well, you know what? You're not going to be able to be the best Muslim you can be. So you got to start taking care of your health, and all these things holistically work together. I don't mean go be a bodybuilder or work out 3 hours a day and be a narcissist. That's not what fitness is about. That's not what health is about. That's why I no longer do that stuff, even though I love working out. I work out 3 days a week for 1 hour. That's my routine, okay? Now, you might even feel that's too much, and maybe just 10 minutes 3 times a week. Now, I go for walks too. Those are just my lifting sessions, but you get the idea. Whatever makes sense for you right now, go do it. And I've got plenty of content on how to work out in just 3 times a week, 10 minutes a day. And of course, if you can do more, it's more optimal to do, yeah, I'd say 45 minutes is a really good target to shoot for. But you know what? I'd rather that you do something you can be 100% consistent about. That's only 60% is optimal. That's something you're only 60% consistent with. That's 100% optimal, right? And chances are you're only going to be 20% consistent if you try to go to the gym for a whole hour, if that's beyond your schedule's capacity right now. And maybe you're already doing that. Great. Maybe you're doing 4. That's great. I don't like to go above 4. And I don't like to go above 60 minutes, because that's where it becomes detrimental. But I digress. Anyways, speaking of keeping things within a good time limit, let me get on with this video. So, you want to age gracefully, and you want to set a good example of leadership for your children and your spouse, okay? If you're just coming home and you're overweight and you're tired and all this stuff, and you're plopping on the couch with a belly, and you're just setting a bad example, your kids don't look up to you, your kids don't really want to be seen with you, all that stuff. Meanwhile, the cool, I'm trying to think of like an American name, but their friends at school, maybe their dad's like a cool dad or whatever, and they start kind of learning more to, or listening more to their friends' dad, who's either secular or a different religion or something. Guess what? You're not going to have that influence you need to have on your children to be their mentor, to be their leader, to lead by example across all areas of life, and to really bring your children closer to Allah by being closer to Allah yourself and being on point with everything else inside of your deen and dunya as well, as a Muslim and as a man or as a woman as well. I mean, I talk a lot to the brothers because most of my clients are brothers, and obviously Islamically, I interact a lot with my male clients, versus a lot of the nutrition type check-ins are done by my female coach. But again, this is kind of where we're at, and so it's really, really important. I really speak to the brothers with this, but also to the sisters. Now, let's go back into some hadiths, right? So there's a hadith on gluttony. Those who overeat will be the hungriest in the hereafter, right? And I got the authentic thing below all these because, I want to make sure that I'm spreading the right knowledge here. But, verily the people who ate to their fill the most in this world will be the hungriest on the day of resurrection. So that's a tough one for me because, when I was bulking and when I'm bulking, I do tend to eat a lot. But it's a matter of, being able to eat those moderate portions. And I've got that hadith in here as well a little bit later, right? Verily, the first organ in the human being to rot is his stomach. Whoever can eat nothing but wholesome food, let him do so. Whoever can let nothing obstruct him from paradise, even as much as a handful of bloodshed, let him so. So I'm not really sure what the second sentence means, to be honest. This last sentence. But what I do know is eat nothing but wholesome food, let him do so. Don't let your stomach rot by eating all these terrible things, right? Sahih, authentic, right? Umar ibn Khattab said, "O people, beware of gluttony, for it will cause you to become lazy in performing the prayers." So just like what I was saying before, versus when you're healthy, you're better in your prayers. It'll damage your body, so again, getting unhealthy, and leave you ill. Verily, Allah hates the fat scholar. Now that's a strong one because there's a lot of scholars out there who kind of try to interpret the hadiths in a way to justify their, not to be mean. I mean, of course, that's not every scholar, but there are some scholars out there who actually, and mashallah, some of the different hadiths on this, I actually heard a scholar who actually went and lost 30 pounds, Brother Bilal, he's amazing, mashallah, and he went and he actually lost weight because he started to actually be honest with himself about, our hadith here and realized that, just like how our Prophet ﷺ was described, that his chest stuck out more than his belly because obviously his belly didn't stick out, he started to actually go back and hold himself in integrity, and he lost the weight, mashallah. May Allah bless him and continue to give him success on his journey. But, a friend of mine, Brother Adam Khan, he talks about how there's a lot of scholars who are overweight and they try to, justify certain things and, imams don't make that much money or scholars don't make that much money. Yeah, well, you know what? You don't have to make a lot of money to be able to get fit. And if you're making a lot of money, then all the more reason to be able to eat the right foods. But it's more so about education and restraint and portion control and getting the right macros. And if you complain that you don't have money for education, guess what? I've got a ton of free content. And if you do have money for education, then hire me as a coach. That's it, right? And then back to this. Instead, be moderate in your food, for that is closer to remedying yourselves and further from waste. It makes you firmer in worshiping Allah. And a servant won't be destroyed until he gives precedence to his desires over his religion. So that's a huge one. You're given into the temptation of food versus the thing that's actually in your best interest. So what other temptations are you setting a pattern of, giving into, right? We got to hold ourselves with discipline. Here's the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So no human has ever filled the vessel worse than his stomach. Sufficient for any son of Adam are some morsels to keep his back straight, but if it must be, then 1/3 for his food, 1/3 for his drink, and 1/3 for his breath. So it isn't even just 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. It's actually even less, right? Like, be moderate in how you eat. But if you must eat, don't fill yourself to the brim with food and stuff yourself, right? And I have a video where I say, if you stuff yourself, you should say astaghfirullah because, it's not good for you in your deen. But leaving at least 1/3 for your breath. Don't be so stuffed that you can't breathe. Yet so many of us, we go to these family dinners and dawats and whatever, and because of Pakistani culture, and not even Pakistani culture, because you also got to remember that the subcontinent, like a lot of things that we might think are Muslim culture because it's Pakistani or Bangladeshi culture, well, Pakistan and Bangladesh were once part of India. So are you following Indian culture or are you following Islam? That's the thing I have to ask you, because if you're Pakistani, if you're Bengali, you're Desi, and I'm Pakistani, half Pakistani, so our country used to be part of India. Maybe, just maybe, think about it, you probably find that I'm right, maybe the culture of lavish feasts and force-feeding all this food is actually Indian culture, not Islam, because if you look at this hadith, obviously in Islam, we're not supposed to be eating like that. So are you and your family choosing Indian culture, aka, a country in which the primary religion is Hinduism, over Islam? Okay? Now that got real quick, and I'm not trying to shame anybody. I don't believe in judgment and shame. All I'm trying to say is you look at the principles of Islam, and you look at the fact that so many Pakistanis who engorge themselves and stuff themselves with food, which is completely contrary to the hadith, have these terrible problems with diabetes, heart disease, all this stuff, right? I mean, this is a super common problem in our Pakistani communities. Well, guess what? What do you think? What should you do, right? So anyways, back to the slideshow. Just some food for thought, right? No pun intended. But again, if you want to be closer to Allah, don't be engorging yourself and following Indian culture. Instead, be a good Muslim, right? Do the Islamic thing. Share this with your family, even if you have to share this video. And I'm sure some uncles will have some refutation. So here's the thing I have to say to you. And I say this as a reminder for myself before anybody, because I have in the past, and I mean, I want to say the past, but sometimes I often have to catch myself in arrogance, because he who has even an atom of arrogance in his heart will not enter Jannah. Okay? That scares the daylights out of me, because I'm somebody who has had a tendency and has a tendency to have a big ego and be arrogant. Astaghfirullah. So may Allah make it easy for me and for you and for everybody, for our whole ummah, to let go of our arrogance and be humble enough to admit that we don't know everything. We don't have it all figured out. And may Allah help us to be students of knowledge and seek ilm, knowledge, every single day and be the best Muslims that we can possibly be. So anyways, may Allah help us all be humble. So if you're an uncle right now and you're getting pissed that I'm saying you can't stuff yourself with biryani, I'm sorry. I'm not the one saying it. Don't change your religion for your own desires. Instead, look, what can I gain from this? This is a test from Allah that I'm addicted to food. So let me overcome this test for the sake of Allah and become closer to Allah by being better and have moderation with my food and watch the benefits that come in my dunya, where I lose the weight, feel better about myself, have more energy, perform better at work, make more money. Now the bounty of Allah is flowing to me better because I took a step towards Allah by getting fit for the sake of Allah. And so Allah blessed me with more energy so I could work better and more efficiently and more proactively and make more money in my business or my career and level up and provide better things for my family. And set the leadership for your family of being healthy and getting rid of these generational curses of diabetes, heart disease, all that stuff. And by the way, I'm not just talking to the Pakistanis, I'm talking to the Arabs out there who are eating munsaf in insane quantities that go beyond what is reasonable. And I love you all. I've got, clients of all races. Many are Pakistani, but I got plenty of Arab clients too. I love you guys so much. I'm thinking of a lot of you guys right now. And I love you guys, but because I love you, I got to be honest with you about the truth and the things that I'm learning here and the things that I've learned along my journey. And may Allah make it easy for all of us to take on this knowledge and apply it to our lives. Inshallah, I mean. Lots of du'as here, guys. All right, so Al-Hassan reported, Umar ibn Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, saw a man with a large belly, and he said, "What is this?" The man said, "It's a blessing from Allah." Umar said, "No, rather it is a punishment." Okay, so, again, it's a punishment, it's a test, there's a lot of different things. Let's establish ourselves as healthy individuals. And you know what, if you think about it, if we as Muslims are able to level ourselves up physically and mentally, think about the da'wah that does to non-Muslims to show the virtues of who we are, instead of having this stereotype as like this angry, overweight, grumpy individual that a lot of non-Muslims believe in about us. It's a terrible thing. It's embarrassing. So why don't we as Muslims be better across all areas of life and do it for the sake of Allah, in the sense that we're giving da'wah to other people for the sake of Allah by being the best selves that we can be. Because when you make the motivation about more than just you, but it's about Allah, our highest power, and then also the greater good of our community, both Muslim and non-Muslim, and of course for the greater good of our family and everything, and the motivation just transcends I want to have a six-pack. Who cares about the six-pack? Even you don't care about the six-pack. You probably kind of shrugged and said, I actually don't care about a six-pack, I just don't want to have a belly. But I still want to be able to eat whatever I want. Well, guess what? I've got healthy recipes. They're low calories, filling enough that you will be satisfied, all that stuff. Just check out my other content on this. But then even with those, be moderate with your portions and don't stuff yourself, and watch. You're going to have more energy, especially for those later prayers after you would have tended to gorge yourself in the past. And you know what? If you get hungry more frequently, you can eat smaller meals throughout the day, and that's fine. That actually stimulate your metabolism, is what we typically found. And what many bodybuilders have found, not saying you have to be a bodybuilder, because it's not about narcissism or wasting time. It's not about wasting time. It's about being efficient with the time that we have so we can get fit for the sake of Allah and in benefiting all these other areas of our lives. So this went on a million tangents, as many of my videos do, but I hope that they were all valuable for you. And the most important thing is, my intention with this video is to bring myself closer to Allah. And you saw myself correct myself back to that intention many times inside this video. There's a couple of times where I mentioned, oh, by the way, I have a program. And guess what? The beautiful thing with the program is if you come in, I get to do barakah with you and work with you at a close level and get you really, really good results, inshallah. But even with that, my intention with taking you on as a client needs to be, let me use this relationship I have with you as my client to bring me and you closer to Allah, instead of just oh, this is this transaction, you pay me money, I get you the result that you paid for. It's not just about that. I have to make my intention more than just making money. And of course, I want to make money to provide for my family and stuff, but more than just making money, what I'm going to do with that money, giving it to charity, sadaqah, all that stuff. But then beyond that is, what I'm making the money from is giving value, but not just worldly value, but transformational value at that highest level and bringing us both closer to Allah. And when you have that intention, you make more money because Allah gives you that bounty. But inside of yourself, it brings a sweetness into your heart. And I guess what I'm trying to say here is I need to make sure and this is a realization I had, that the clients who I bring on are people who bring me closer to Allah. And that's one of the reasons why I love working with Muslims, but pious Muslims. So if you're watching this video right now, I'm so glad that you made it to the end of this video. And if you're watching this right now, I hope that you're the type of pious Muslim who maybe 3 months from now, we end up working together or something, or I can at least help you in some capacity. But anyways, I hope that this video helped you along that line of reasoning. And again, it's not about neglecting this world. This world is important too, but it's about prioritizing, our hereafter, because, maybe we have 80 years, hopefully 90 years to do even more good deeds by following the tips that I give you, because you're going to live hopefully 10 years longer, inshallah, but only Allah knows, right? But either way, it's just so important that 90 years versus eternity is more important. So let's focus on that. And the beautiful thing is it brings you the sweetness and happiness in the dunya too. And, everything is qadr Allah, right? So if you're watching this video right now, there's a reason why Allah put this video in front of you. And so I hope that reason is that you apply it instead of just ignoring it, because if you ignore it, that's arrogance. And for my sake, or for your sake and for my sake, but more so for your sake, for all of our sake, I hope that none of us can have that arrogance in our hearts, because I want us to all enter Jannah. So let that, as well as everything else you do, let fitness and everything else you do be for the sake of bringing you closer to Allah. And may Allah help us keep that intention at the front of our hearts at all times. Ameen. Any questions you have, drop a comment. Anything that you want to contribute to this discussion as well, or that you want to debate. If I said something inaccurate, please let me know so I can correct it, and for the benefit of anybody else watching, so that we can all avoid sins and all do maximum barakah. And, obviously if I did something right, please let me know, but be civil about it. If you have some criticisms, you don't need to be a hater, just gentle criticism. Or if you feel like it's something that might be sensitive, you can send me a private DM. And then same thing, if it's a sensitive issue that you need help with, then send me a private DM, because I don't expect you to share that publicly. I do go through my DM requests periodically. I may miss it, but hopefully I'll be able to find your message. And if it's something really urgent that you really want to make sure that I see immediately, that's obviously something respectful that you're comfortable sharing publicly, drop a comment, share this with a friend, save this video for later so that we can always have this reminder. And may Allah use me and this video as a tool to bring us all closer to Allah, help me get closer to Allah, help you get closer to Allah, and help us all get closer to Him. Inshallah, ameen. Jazakallah khair. Inshallah, see you guys in the next video. Assalamu alaikum.